Sherlock Holmes, a fictional character created by British author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, is the archetype of the detective. Known for his powers in logical reasoning and deduction, he is at his core a problem solver. He'll go out, he's given mysteries, goes out, finds clues, takes them back, solves a problem at hand, saves the day. In this process, some of these clues that he finds seem more important than they are. We call these red herrings. A red herring is a piece of information that is or is intended to be misleading or distracting. It differs from irrelevant information in that it feels much more important than it is. And it plays a really important role in detective stories. As consumers, it diverts our attention away from the important information so we can have a more surprising and engaging story. But unlike us, Sherlock Holmes can't afford to be distracted by them because then he can't solve the problem at hand. Luckily, he's an expert at spotting this information that is not important and keeping his eye on the ball, solving the problem at hand, saving the day. Hi, I'm Sarah, a lead product designer here at Dovetail, and one of the many ways that I, a woman in the 21st century working in tech, and Sherlock Holmes are alike, is that my job is also about problem solving. Working in product development, we come across many problems all the time, loads of problems. And some of these problems are immediately obvious that they are very important and are going to have a high impact on our business. We know what to do with these. These need to be prioritized and solved right away. Some of these problems, immediately obvious that they're not important to us. They have a low impact on our customers and our business. These problems are not a threat to us. However, there are a subset of problems that simultaneously are real, might be something that we need to solve eventually, but are also a distraction from where our attention should be. These are product development red herrings, and they are dangerous. Focusing our time and attention on a product development red herring means, at best, prevents us from pursuing maybe more profitable paths, and at worst could be actively harmful for our customers and our business. So, how can we catch these red herrings? Today, I'm going to run you through 5 red herrings that I've encountered in my time working in product development and some methods for you to spot them a mile away so that, like Sherlock Holmes, you can keep your eye on the ball, solve the problem at hand, and save the day. You found a problem. Now what? A lot of you might be familiar with the following quote from Henry Ford. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Or what about this one from Steve Jobs? A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Now, this is good advice, but it can be harmful if you stop at that top level. These quotes can be weaponized to justify building whatever you want, with the underlying assumptions that customers don't know what's good for them. So we come across our first red herring for the day, the shiny new thing. The shiny new thing is when we focus on the new and exciting, the technology or idea or insight, and leave old ideas in the dust. And we can excuse following the shiny new thing to ourselves by saying, we're innovating. But there is a real difference between true innovation and falling for this red herring. And unsurprisingly, given where we are today, that is deep understanding of your customers and their problems. Because while they might not have the imagination to sort of picture all the creative ways that you can solve their problems, that's our job, they do understand those problems better than anyone else. So, how do you catch it? You deeply understand your customer problems. I can hear you thinking, but Sarah, aka our modern day Sherlock Holmes, that seems all very well and good, but how do we actually do that? So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that feeling when you've gone out, you've spoken to customers, you've kicked off your project, you've done your research, you come back, you're doing your analysis, and you get that sinking feeling of realizing that you haven't gone deep enough. And by this time, maybe you've run out of time, maybe you've run out of budget. But either way, you didn't ask the right questions, or maybe you just didn't know what you didn't know before you started. How I accomplish this now with Dovetail is some of the new features that we heard today, Magic Highlights and Magic Summary, which enables me to do analysis as I go. So instead of having to wait to the end of the project to do that analysis to maybe find the gaps that I found, I can skip over some vast parts of this manual labour to start getting insights faster on the go, which helps me make adjustments on the fly. I can change the questions I'm asking. I can make sure I'm getting deeper so that by the end of the project, I can have the confidence that I have found the right problems and I'm going to catch this red herring. You found a true customer problem. Now what? What could possibly be the catch if you found a customer problem? Well, hold your horses because we might be encountering red herring number 2, the circular problem. Now, a circular problem is when a business gets stuck solving problems that you have created yourself in a bit of a circular loop. So if the problem only exists in your own ecosystem and your customers aren't talking about this problem outside of it, you are the problem. And in this situation, we shouldn't be working on solutions that help users resolve these problems. We should be figuring out the root cause and solving those problems for them. Getting stuck on this red herring can be really dangerous because while you are cleaning up messes that you might have created, your competitors can be innovating past you, solving real customer problems and taking that. We aren't immune to this at Dovetail. We might have introduced a bit of a circular problem with our tag taxonomies. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the amount of effort it takes to manage those. And we've done some work. We could continue to do some work to help our customers manage those really complex tag taxonomies. But we could also take a moment of reflection to be, are we just putting band-aids on a wound we've created? And do we need to solve that in a different way? So, how do you catch this red herring? Be on the lookout for product-specific language. Language is a real key here. When you are describing the problem that you found or the insight that you have, does the language you're using tie directly to your own ecosystem? So a primary customer problem will be framed outside of the context of your product or service, whereas a secondary problem might use language that only exists in that ecosystem. You might be dealing with one of these red herrings in that case. So I use Dovetail to keep a high level of themes and insights across the whole project. Different views like Canvas or even Board enables me to maintain that high level view so I can look for patterns that I'm finding. Even more so, using magic features like Cluster helps me be a bit objective with the groups that I'm putting together so I can remove those underlying assumptions that I have and make sure that if that product-specific language is appearing, I can catch it here and make sure that I am actually solving real customer problems and not getting stuck in a circular loop. You found a primary true customer problem. What now? Now is the time to think about whether we are dealing with a flash in the pan or an enduring, persistent customer problem, i.e., will solving this problem have a long-term impact on your customers' needs? Here enters our third red herring of the day, the squeaky wheel. So this is when problems appear loudly out of nowhere and get the grease over more enduring customer problems that we've known about. The problem with the squeaky wheel is, and this is the link to the red herring, is that it feels really urgent, feels really loud, but they're often less important than problems that we've known about for a long time. This is because true paradigm shifts, where things come out of nowhere, are pretty rare. I would say a good example of this would be when ChatGPT launched. That was a paradigm shift that changed the game, and we needed to respond to that in many different areas. But typically, these problems that appear out of nowhere are less important than the more enduring, persistent ones. So how do we catch the squeaky wheel? Be wary of problems without roots. So persistent problems have roots and should be an extension of existing knowledge, be able to be traced back to known truths. They should have that ability to kind of map to what you already know about your customers. If it does, you can feel pretty confident that you've got a persistent problem. If it doesn't, it enables you to take that beat, take that moment, and assess whether you're dealing with a paradigm shift or whether this is just a squeaky wheel that is a distraction. How I do this in Dovetail is as a repository for all our known customer inputs, both from myself or those of my colleagues. And if you're dealing with a problem that appears loudly out of nowhere, you can search for it here in the hub and look for those roots. If I can find them, I can feel confident it's a persistent problem. And if I can't, I might be dealing with a squeaky wheel. beauty about this is that it only gets stronger over time. So the more information that's put in there, the easier it is to find those roots and make sure that you're dealing with those persistent problems. So you have found a primary, persistent, true customer problem. What now? This one can hurt a little for product-focused people like me, but will it actually hurt our business not to solve this problem? It's a moment for reflection on that. We might be dealing with red herring number 4, the molehill mountain, where we make something out to be much bigger than it is. And here is a moment where you have to be quite ruthless, and it can hurt as a product-minded person, but solving this problem, not solving this problem might be negative, but not solving this problem might be neutral. It might not actually have an outsized impact. So, how to catch this red herring? Know what will happen if you do nothing. I think typically, when we think about this, we think about what will be the impact if we solve this problem. What's the impact on our customers? What's the impact on our business? Here is where I flip the script. What will be the impact if we don't? The best way to do this is to collaborate. I value here at Dovetail is highly collaborative, cross-functional teams, and we truly believe that the best problems and solutions come when we come together. It's impossible to maintain all the context yourself, so bring your team in and play these scenarios out. What happens if we don't fix it? How I support this in Dovetail is with our collaboration features, like fields or tags or comments, where I can keep discussions contextual in the platform. So we can maintain this source of truth and keep the discussion of how important this is next to the context, which means that I not only catch it once, but if anyone else finds this information, they catch it as well, meaning we've not only caught the red herring ourselves, but we've caught it forever. So you have found a primary, persistent, punitive, true customer problem. What now? Sounds like you have a pretty good problem on your hands. But a red herring can be operating at a personal level too. And this is a moment to ask yourself, are you the best person to work on this problem, really? Or are you the wrong person? Now, ownership is good. It's a really important trait, and we really value at Dovetail as well. And given you found this problem, which seems to be pretty important at this point, you should probably make sure that it's resolved, but you might not be the best person to solve it. And it's a time to be reflective. Maybe you don't have the skills. Maybe you don't have the context, or maybe you simply have too much on your plate. And here's where we might be dealing with our 5th red herring. You've got the wrong person. However, this problem still needs solving. How to catch it? Know your strengths and weaknesses. As my main man, Socrates, would say, know thyself. Be very ruthless here and ask yourself, with everything that you're working on in your business, why should you be the one to solve this? In the past, sometimes I would solve problems that I was less suited for because it would simply take too much time to get someone else up to speed. This is where automation has somewhat changed the game. So features in Dovetail like summarization can be used to give that context to your coworkers so that you can afford to get the right person every single time. You could do this at a micro level, like an individual interview, or a macro level for all the information across your hub. But either way, you can give that download in a beautifully packaged way faster than ever. You are dealing with a primary, persistent, punitive, true customer problem, and you're the best person to work on it. What now? You're done. Just kidding, that was a red herring. Now you actually need to solve the problem. But with the 5 red herrings that we've run through today, the shiny new thing, the circular problem, the squeaky wheel, the molehill mountain, and the wrong person, you can be confident that, like Sherlock Holmes, you have caught these red herrings before you go into the room, knowing that you have the most important information there to be solving it with. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and happy fishing.